Jen, hello. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. Tell us, just do a quick intro. Tell us about you, like you as a person. Where do you live? What do you love? What do you do?
So I live in two places. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and at the beach right outside of Charleston, South Carolina. It's a quick trip back and forth. And ever since I discovered that you could actually live at the beach, I didn't realize that that was ever a dream of mine until we started quarantining there because it was so just open and free and you're able to walk around there's no one there really.
You didn't
And
feel quite so.
yeah, it's just different than being in a city,
Mhm.
and being congested in a city. And so ever since I discovered that that could actually be my life, we bought a place and I've been spending more and more time there. And it's just such a blessing. Oh my God. It's the coolest thing. I never would have imagined that I was that person growing up. Cause I grew up in New York City. I'm a New
Oh, wow.
York person. I'm a New York
You're
girl.
a city
And
girl.
yeah. But so that's where I live. And what I love dogs. I have two Cavalier King Charles Spaniels, and they're literally like my children. I also have an 11-year-old stepdaughter, and she's just so precious and so smart and so amazing. And I love to sell, and I love helping other people learn how to make more sales with confidence and ease so that it's not icky and uncomfortable, but it's really just offering what it is you do or you have to provide and how it's going to help someone and serve someone and getting paid for that and getting paid something fair and reasonable and a price that you deserve. And so it's one of my passions.
So you wrote best-selling book, Sales in New York Minute. So you know sales. That's why it's your passion. Why do you think we struggle with it so much? Why do you think we get that knot in our gut? Well, you don't. That knot in our gut of this isn't okay, and all the stories that come along with having a hard time selling what our genius is, what our gift is to the world.
Yeah. So those stories, and if you are listening and that's how you feel, if I just say the word sales or selling and you already feel that then that is okay. That comes from a very young age. That comes from stories that our parents had or whoever raised us had in their mind that they unintentionally passed on to us while we were very shapeable. When you're under the age of 8 and you're developing, we are hearing these money mindset stories that we don't even realize are stories. We're just taking them for truth. Like money doesn't grow on trees, or you have to work hard to make a lot of money. You know what? I know people who don't work hard. They work 10 hours a week and they make a ton of money. Okay. Or, it's hard to come by or it's hard to keep. And so there's these money stories that we have. And then what happens with those money stories that we've been raised with that you might not have even identified to be a story, right? But it is. Those stories end up influencing our ability and comfortableness with asking other people for money.
Yeah. And I'll hear my clients frequently when we're talking about how they can scale and what more things they can offer to their customer base. It's often that one of the first knee-jerk reactions are, well, my customers don't have money for that. I'm like, have you asked for their finances? You
Right.
don't know.
Do you have their tax return?
Do you have their tax return? And the money for that is interesting because they are their customers already. We all choose how we spend our money. So for that is, money for that is really accurate because it's okay. This is how I'm choosing to spend it. They're already coming to you, or they're already in your peripheral somewhere.
Right.
Why would you assume that that's not where they're choosing to spend their money?
Right. And that's a big assumption that a lot of people make. And they make it because I don't know the why behind it. Like maybe they wouldn't spend their money on it, or maybe they feel bad asking for more money, or maybe they really feel like those people wouldn't buy. But until you ask, you'll never know. I mean, you're already being said no to because you're not asking. You're not making the offer.
Yeah. Anything, it's a definite no for anything you're not offering. Or maybe they have that whisper of some, for example, their mom that doesn't understand their product, or their mom that doesn't use their service. That was the person that started ingraining these beliefs that maybe said, people pay you for that? Mm-hmm. Like that's where the not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, outside of influence.
My mom hasn't said that, by the way. I'm not like accusing anybody of anything.
Outside influence from people who don't understand your business is really unfair, especially if they're not your ideal client, because who are they to say what people might pay for? Like, I don't even tell my clients, like, yeah, you can charge this for this, or that you can't. We come up with an idea of what they can charge based on what they feel in their gut, they feel in their heart, and then based on all the value. And you have to outline for yourself, really, all that value that you're giving someone. So whether it's a service or a product, you should have a list of what goes into this offer that makes it so irresistible, that makes it so desirable. And is that something someone would pay for? And then what would they pay? Right. And so, but until you really outline all the value, it's hard to just say whether or not someone would pay for that.
And maybe you yourself don't believe in the value.
Yeah. So belief is one of the things that I harp on, because I think it's just so foundational to every sale, no matter what it is you're selling. When I was in high school, I was selling Cutco knives. And if you've ever used a Cutco knife, they are literally the best knives on the planet. And I
haven't, but as soon as my husband hears this, he's going to want to go find some. He's quite the knife connoisseur.
Oh my God, they're amazing. And like, when you eat your steak, it's just so like, you don't even think, because it's just so smooth as you're cutting it. And I mean, the ice cream scoop is the best ice cream scoop on the planet. And this is 2 decades later, and I'm still telling you how great it is. Right? Because that belief is so deeply ingrained into my heart that it is so easy. How don't you want the ice cream scoop? I don't even sell it. Okay.
Yeah.
I make no money from him.
I get no benefit for getting excited about the ice cream scoop today.
Right. But the truth is, like, you're creating an environment when you have that passion and excitement for something and internal belief that makes people want to buy, instead of creating an environment where you're showing up and you're like, oh my God, this is really great. Will you buy this? Like, what would you pay for that? Like, there's such a difference in that first thing about the ice cream scoop and now, Do you
talk about that it's okay if somebody says no? Like, it's like, it doesn't mean you need to go back to the drawing board because it wasn't for one person.
Mm-hmm. So
because that's kind of for me.
I have to laugh at that because I have had clients who say, who have said, well, like, no one bought, so it must be bad. It must be a bad offer, or it must not be worth it, or I must have priced it too high. The immediate thought is I must have priced it too high. Well, actually, no one bought, and let's look at why. Okay, no one bought is a fact. Now, everything they said after that is a belief or assumption. That's
a story you made up. And I'm really big, no matter what the issue is. If something feels scary, you've got to shine a light on the monster under the bed. What's the worst thing that could possibly happen? Can I live with that? What does that actually mean? All right, let's move forward. So with sales, it's somebody could say no. And somebody will. I mean, somebody should at some point.
And then what?
So then what?
Your immediate reaction to that no is how you perceive sales. So if you're like, they said no, like my business is over or whatever, right? Like, or like, it's the end of the world, like whatever.
Who knows a bankruptcy attorney? Somebody said no.
like that, that's one thing. Or you could say, oh, they said no. And you know what? Sometimes I say to people when they say no, I'm like, yes. And they're like, huh? I just said no. And I'm like, no, I know I need 5 no's to get to a yes. And you are my 4th no of the day.
Yeah.
And so it's really how you message that, not just to them, but also to yourself, and how you internalize it, because I'm excited. So I look at NO as next opportunity.
Ooh.
Just find the next one. And I actually would rather someone tell me no than string me along. So now I'm wasting time thinking that they might want to work with me, or following up with them. Now that's extra energy that it's taking me to, try and do this. And it's taking away from people you can find who can say yes to you. And where I was going to go before, by the way, when someone says no and you make it about your product or your service, I really want to challenge you to look at your messaging, because a lot of the time it's our messaging that's getting in the way, that's preventing people from understanding the actual value that you'd be delivering.
That principle of a confused customer always says no.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know why your thing is valuable for them.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think, like, if you look at product-based, I can think that if somebody was like, do you want this amazing face serum? And then I don't understand how it applies to me. I just know it's a face serum and it's amazing and it's great and everybody loves it. I'm like, I don't know. My face is doing pretty good. Like, if I don't know the benefits of that, or a candle, these are my favorite candles. They're so beautiful and I love them. Okay. But like,
why? Well, like, I'll show you my favorite candle. Hold on. Where is it?
Oh, no.
Oh, here. Hold on. Okay. Sell me your candle. This is my favorite candle. Let me get it in the light here. Ooh, you can't really see it, but it says, I am luminous. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it comes in this beautiful, like a normal kind of glass bottle, right? And then it has this affirmation on it. But why is this my favorite candle? Because, oh my God, that smell of essential oils that were farmed in Canada by a lady, and her picture is on the website, and I've learned her story and how she grows these plants, and I'm connected to that emotionally. That emotional connection is huge. Okay. Now, there's also a benefit. When my candle is done, I have a beautiful glass jar that I can put anything into this. I can plant a plant in here. I can put soil in and have something grow out of it. I can reuse it, right? So there's all these things I can do with it. But that emotional connection that I hit on, that story is what people connect with. Yeah. That made me buy. Oh, and by the way, the person who sells the candles is now a client, but when I bought them, she wasn't. And I had heard her story. And I connected with her story. And so people are going to connect with you and your brand and your story. And that's going to make them at least want to know more to maybe buy.
So that makes me think of, the program masterclass.
Yeah.
And I'm probably not going to pronounce her name correctly, but one that keeps popping up in front of me over is, because I clicked on it, so that's why it's popping in. But besides the point is the bread maker. So she's teaching a bread class. I believe her name is Apollonia Poilin. And she starts by telling this gut-wrenching story of losing her parents in a helicopter accident and being early 20s and having to take over this multi-generational bakery between, they have 6 bakeries between London and Paris. And she's this young girl that had just learned how to bake, and she takes over the bakery for the whole family. It's a class on how to make bread. But with that story, I'm so attached to her. I don't care what she's going to teach me. I have this emotional connection to whatever she has to say next. because she just told a story that hit me in the gut.
And so, oh my God, I love this. So when people think of sales, most of the time they think of what item, product, service, whatever, can someone buy that I'm going to get money for? But there's other kinds of sales that are happening all around us every single day. So now that you have masterclass, she needs to sell you on actually taking her course.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that she's not getting like, there's no money involved because you already have masterclass, right? There's no extra money, but that is a sale. Her giving you that emotional connection, you're probably going to take the entire class.
Yeah. And, I think there is a sale that like, I'm not going to cancel it. I'm not going to be like, I signed up for this thing. I never use it, which by the way, I haven't signed up for that, but it's an advertisement that now like, I'm probably like on the short list of expensive ad views because.
Oh, you haven't signed up for masterclass?
No.
Okay. So I was thinking you had, and you heard her story in the program.
No, her story. It's like on a social media feed.
That is so funny. So yes, so that emotional connection is everything. It's everything.
What does she want to tell me? I'll listen.
Think about all the people you've bought from recently and what kind of connection you had to them and their stuff that they're selling. Like, I'm buying this new deodorant from someone I follow on Instagram. It's called Zen Pits, by the way.
Oh,
and
nice.
I know, right? And I just have this. First of all, I want to try an organic, natural kind of deodorant, but also I could buy that from anybody. But I have an emotional connection to the person who's selling it because of her post, because she's putting herself out there, because of what she's saying and how different it is from what, a lot of people are saying. And I think sometimes
now I want my armpits to be like hers.
But sometimes we're afraid to be different because different stands out. And when we're young, we're taught to fit in. Right. And different, when you can get people to connect with your different, it sells.
Yeah. Yeah. You get your little pods and it's like your message is like a dog whistle for only the people that will connect to you at that level that I'm now connected to this Parisian bread maker.
It's so funny.
And it hits so much. So I want to turn a little bit. I've heard you talk about this before. I've recently listened to your last episode on your podcast, The Breakthrough Babe, right?
Yeah.
And I knew you and I were aligned. I didn't know how. So we don't have to do a repeat of your whole podcast, even though I feel like we could. But talking about, so I wrote it down, it's building a business that works for you, not the other way around. So you've made your sales, or you're making your sales and you're growing, and how we keep from similarly having our business run us, having our business run our whole lives.
I think it's a common female problem, and maybe men have this too. I don't know, but
we'll pretend they don't.
As a girl, I can only speak for myself. And I have found that I and others I know who are females tend to have this issue where we want to be uber successful. We want, there is a high drive, high energy, high passion, high connection to what it is you're building. Because when you build a business, it's like it's like raising a child in a sense. Yeah. It's your baby, right?
I hear that. I hear businesses referred to as people's firstborn or.
Yeah. And so I've just, my whole life up until a certain point, I had let my work control my life in a way that my life came second. And one day it just dawned on me, why? What am I doing? Where is the sleep? Where is the exercise? Where is the ability and time I want to make healthy meals. I don't actually want to make them, but I want to be able to source them because I don't like cooking. But, I want to be able to go get them, but I'm not giving myself any time for me. And
I don't know that day. What happened? What was it about that day that you were like, whoa?
It was all this pent up frustration of not having enough time, but I had the time. I just didn't allocate it. right? We all have the time.
Kind of like we choose how to spend our money. We choose how to spend our time.
Exactly. And someone might say, no, it's not a choice. I have to work that hard. I have to do. But the reality is, if your desire is to create time for yourself and actually live your life and build a business around your life, then you get to choose how much time you're spending on your business, right? And so I don't know what it was specifically about that day. It was just, I think it was like the last straw, and I started journaling a lot and looking back at my history, and I realized like my whole life, and this is no like offense to my parents, I love them, but they worked their butts off. I mean, when we started when they like kind of made it, quote unquote, when I was 10, and we started going on these vacations to Aruba, and we would get to Aruba, and the very first thing they would do is go to the front desk every morning to get their faxes for the day. Now, we were on vacation. Fax machines, right? Because you couldn't bring you couldn't bring a computer. It was unheard of.
Can't lug a computer back in that day. I mean, my career started there. We used fax machines at the beginning of my career, but I get it. Like thinking how.
And so it's like what you don't even realize you're witnessing. Like I didn't realize when I was younger that I was witnessing them working all the time, right? That we were on vacation and they were like, well, we can have fun after we work. We can go do this cool thing in town after we get our work done.
With this. And I've kind of narrowed it down to about 5, intertwined, but about 5 personality types that are behind our belief systems of why we have to work so hard. And I call this one the traditionalist. So it's someone who has people like your parents or your grandparents that you admire and love so much. And you view them as successful and good people. And the way they earned their success was good. And it happened to have been by doing what you're describing. And so that's the good and right way of doing things. I can't do something else. What even is something else? This is the good and right way to be successful. And we carry that belief system in. And, like I said, that's one of 5, but then, they're all, our belief systems come from different places, but that's really one identified one, is that we view this right and good way of success. And then we want to replicate that. We're not trying to deviate from the right and good way.
So you have to come on my show and talk about the other 4. Because I'm like dying to know what they are.
Very good.
I would say that it wasn't until this moment that I even realized what that impact had on me. And obviously they had no malintent.
Or they're one of those 5 or a combo of those 5. They're not trying to do anything. Yeah.
But and so for me, I was just like, this is not what I want in life. And I really made that conscious decision of, okay, so if that's not what I want, what do I want? What do I want my life to look like? What are the things, and I do this with my clients, like what does your ideal day look like? If you were to create your ideal day, when do you wake up? When do you start work? How much do you work? What toothpaste do you use? Do you use the one that you just got because it was like on the shelf and on sale, or do you use your favorite freaking toothpaste? Okay. Like I have a favorite toothpaste. It's Marvis, but but sometimes it's harder to get. It's not at Target. So like sometimes I settle. Do you settle? Because if you're settling in one place, are you settling in other places? And so they outline their ideal day, and you can do this too. I mean, but then you get to this point and you're like, okay, that's cool. That's ideal. But how do I get there? Like there's this gap between where you are and where you want to be. And one of the things I teach is that to close in on that gap, it first begins at an identity level. It is not actually, you have to become that person before you can make that shift. So for example, when I stopped biting my nails, my grandma was on her deathbed. She basically raised me. I mean, she was my best friend, and her nails were perfect all the time. Like I never saw her without perfect nails, except if we were going to the nail place. And and even the nurses were commenting they had never seen someone in the hospital
Such pretty nails.
Such nice nails.
Mm-hmm.
She held my hand and she's like, you need to take care of your nails. It is the first thing people see. It is a big deal. It is the impression you're making. I don't want you to bite them anymore. Like you need to stop that. You did whatever. From that day forward, and I had tried to stop. I mean, I think nail biters try, you try the polish. There's all different things.
I used to be, I'm a somewhat recently recovered nail biter myself.
Yeah.
Pretty nails.
Oh, they're so pretty. So that day I decided I'm no longer a nail biter.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a person, I am a lady who is like, I'm an elegant lady who always has perfect nails. And I mean, you can ask my husband, like when I have one little chip, I'm at the nail place within 24 hours.
Yeah, because
like,
otherwise
right. Well, and also it's because I promised grandma that that's who I would be. And so it is an identity level. And this is a really hard, it's an easy concept to grasp in your mind. It's a harder concept to actually do.
To do it. And I think it's where actually that has been an unspoken, like I've shared it with my husband, but otherwise an unspoken goal of mine for 2021 is to question myself every time I start to say, well, I'm just not a person who, I'm not a person who can have pretty nails. I bite them. I'm not a person who, and I'm really forcing myself out of that comfort zone. But when I've pigeonholed myself on, I can't, I won't, I don't, I'm not a person who succeeds at this thing. Like, that's dumb. I don't know that to be true. And for me this year, it is snow sports.
Ooh.
So the first time I ever tried to ski, I was early 30s. I didn't grow up really we didn't get to vacation or do anything like that really. So these adventures are all in my adulthood. And I had just had a hysterectomy. And I knew we were going to go to Colorado. And I specifically scheduled my hysterectomy so that I would be 8 weeks out the day we left for Colorado. Brilliant, right?
Oh my goodness.
Because that's when I knew I'd be released. Like, released to walk around and drive. So I'd had this major surgery and then showed up on the mountain to ski. How well do you think that went?
Yeah, I don't know. You're here to tell the story, so that's good.
There were no further surgeries from that adventure involved. And honestly, it wasn't that bad. It's not like I fell that much. There were other, like, the instructor insisted on lacing everybody's boots and he forgot to get to me. So I was doing the whole lesson without laced boots. Like, there were other aspects that made it awful, but I had no body strength, no muscle, like all of my muscles were like, it was not good. So then the second time I tried to ski was last Thanksgiving, and a blizzard was moving through Flagstaff as I was trying to learn to ski for the second time without lessons.
Oh no.
How well do you think that went?
Uh-uh.
Or not last Thanksgiving, sorry, the one before that. Nobody went anywhere last Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So that's where I kind of started. We still go to the snow and the mountains all the time, but I've been saying for the last several years, I'm not someone who skis. I'm not someone who likes snow sports. I'm not someone who's good at that. So this year I'm like, screw that. I'm going to try it again. And I may not enjoy it, but it doesn't mean I have to take it up as my new hobby, but I also don't have to be pigeonholed as being someone who is bad at that.
Yeah. So, oh man, this is so powerful. So you're a lawyer.
Right.
So when you say I'm a lawyer, that has its own identity in your soul. And the same thing is when we say I am not a skier or I'm not a whatever, right? That has an identity. And so we create our actions based on our identity. Yeah. And I can go really deep into this, but I'm not going to at the moment.
We may need a part two.
That'll be part two. But when we say I'm not good at sales, that's an identity
Mm-hmm.
that we're making.
For
and my dogs are going to
sure.
bark in a second because I think
That's
their
okay.
walker is coming up.
That's okay.
Yeah,
But, I'm not good at sales. I'm someone who has to work this much. I have to put the business first. I have to take my cell phone to my kids' sporting events.
If you say, even when, and this is so common, like I'm overwhelmed,
Mm-hmm.
that's an identity that we're creating at this like internal level. And so if you want to get good at selling, if you want to get good at making more money, if you want to get good at owning a business and growing your business, whatever it is, if you want to be the best mom on the planet,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like whatever it is, you first need to take on that identity.
Yeah. Speaking of what we were just talking about off camera, I'm a perfectionist. I'm overwhelmed.
Right.
Are you?
Right. And so when you take on this identity of being a perfectionist, then it gives you this excuse, right, to not, and people will look at it as an excuse because they're really going to say, no, it needs to be perfect before it goes out. It can't go out under my name. And what if it doesn't look perfect? And all these things, right? And at one time I was kind of like that. And as soon as I started to let go of that, of like, but what if it isn't perfect? So what is that belief there? Like, what are people going to never buy from you again if you make a mistake? Are you not human?
Yeah,
like
shining that light on that monster under the bed again. It's like, okay, it goes out not perfect. Then what?
And I feel like I just have to share this because it keeps. I'm like hesitant to share it, but I'm going to do it.
That's your big green light then.
So the reason I'm harping on this identity thing, and here's where it kind of comes from. When we go through life, most people live this model of once I have the thing, once my kids graduate college, once I lose all the weight, once I have, right, I'll do the things that I want and I'll become that person who I want to be. Okay. Have, do, be. And the become that person, that identity level, and what I'm harping on is becoming that person. You actually have to become that person first. It's backwards. So we go through life with this model of have, do, be, but really the model should be do, have.
Wow. That's big.
And so if you can become that, so I became the person who had elegant nails. That was the identity that I established in my mind. And I will never bite a nail again because I'm not that person anymore, right? So now do the actions, right? I'm going to the nail place, I'm whatever, and I have the nails. But it started with the identity, and that's why I'm harping on this. So like, if you want to become a person who makes a lot of sales, first you have to believe that you have that identity within you. That I believe in my heart that I am a great salesperson. I'm a great business owner, but I'm a great salesperson. And if you believe you suck at sales, well, how are you going to make any sales or enough sales or good, because that's where you're taking your actions from.
Yeah. And, there's the doing also being that critical point, because anybody who listens to me knows that I'll call bullshit on the pure mindset only, change your mindset, everything else will flow. I call bullshit on that so quickly, because yes, you do need, mindset is such a critical part. That doesn't mean nothing else happens and then like this rainbow comes and slaps you in the ass and everything works out. You've got to do something too. If you became the person that didn't bite nails but then never did anything to take care of your nails, maybe you wouldn't bite them, but they would look like shit. So,
right, I wouldn't have elegant nails.
Yes. Sorry, I'm not saying people who don't do stuff to their nails look like shit, but they wouldn't be the...
Mine would.
Okay. Just you.
It's okay, mine would.
Mine would.
But here's the thing. I love the woo stuff. And we are so aligned.
Can you see?
I love it.
It's a critical part of my life.
Yes. But I think that you're right. I'm not going to just sit in yoga style on my floor being like hoping that things are going to work out right and trusting the universe. I'm going to do that and take action. And that action piece, you're so right, is missing from so many of those kind of lessons.
Yeah. And those lessons to me just end up having a level of toxicity to them because there's a lot of assumptions of what you've got swirling around in your reality if you think that you don't have to do anything. You probably have a lot of, privilege swirling around you if you don't have to do anything else that change your mind. So that's a big assumption that ends up kind of toxic for people that are in truly really rough situations or have other aspects that make it a lot more complicated. But exactly what you're saying. Decide that you are somebody that can have all of these things. Decide you are somebody that can do sales. Decide you are somebody who can be an entrepreneur, have the business of your dreams, and love your life too. You don't have to be burnt out to have a successful business. Decide you can be that person. Now go do the things.
Yeah. And like you're saying, like, because I think you brought this whole thing up with, how do you build a business around your dreams, or what was that moment? And it was just this moment of me realizing, like, that's not what I wanted anymore. Like, do you really want to be burned out all the time? Like getting no sleep, feeling overwhelmed, feeling tired, feeling exhausted, feeling like you want to burn your business because it's burning you into the ground? Or do you want to create this new identity that your business is serving you and working kind of for you so that you can enjoy that life that you're trying to create? And for me, one of the big shifts really was taking on team, was finding people that could support my vision, that could take on tasks. And it's a lot of like letting go of that perfectionism and really, if someone else makes a mistake on your brand, like, you have to be okay with it. It's not the end of the world.
And let that be their lesson. There's still a person that wants to be fulfilled by their work. And that was the other thing in listening to your last podcast episode that I was like, got even more excited for our recording, because you used a lot of the same words that I'm using with people all the time. Automate and delegate, automate and delegate. And I'm like, she said automate and delegate. Yes.
My favorite one is and eliminate.
I'm not as good. Mine just says toss it. Automate, delegate, or toss it.
That's great. I love it.
I quit rhyming too early. But it's I started my business only about 10 years ago, but there were not the automation opportunities that there are today. Really, so many things had to be done manually. And again, I think a little mindset shift of just because that's how we had to do it doesn't mean that's the only good and right way. There are apps and tools and so many opportunities for automation that not only make your business run smoother, but are more convenient for your customer.
There are people who will say, but I don't trust the tech, or the tech's too complicated, or whatever. And guess what? There's people out there who specialize in this stuff, and they can literally set it up for you in probably a day.
Delegate that to the pros. And probably the number one businesses I really harp on this with is service-based businesses that take in appointments daily. So, salons, really any kind of beauty service, anything like that that's going to take in daily appointments. Do not make people call you and wait till you have time in between to set an appointment.
No.
Stop it. Nobody likes that personal. Nobody likes that personal touch.
So my hair salon. So I agree with you. My hair salon at the beach has like an online booking tool. So I'm like, this is really awesome. But then they use their language in the tool. Like, I don't know if I need a partial this or like they use hair terms.
I'm gonna pick one that sounds.
I'm like, so which I think mine costs this much. Is like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, So make sure when you're setting this stuff up that you put it in actual terms that your customers speak in, not your terms, right? Yeah. And they took that down. I don't know why, but they like paused it. They said our booking system's offline for what right now. Well, when I call, I get their voicemail every single time. And I said to my hairstylist last time, I'm like, I tried to move my appointment up by a week, but you guys didn't answer your phone. I got your voicemail 3 times. She goes, oh, yeah. Just leave a message. We don't answer, but we call you back. COVID. And I'm like, that's like everyone's excuse, I think. And so like, just blame it on COVID. And I'm like,
due to COVID, our booking system's down. You're like, I don't think that's right.
Like what? And so I'm just like, people don't realize what kind of a hassle it is. Like I'm trying to give her more business by coming a week early, which means I'm coming in 3 weeks instead of 4 weeks. Yeah. And I'll like, that's maybe one extra service a year, but they don't answer. Yeah. So, just think about that, I guess.
No, I think it's really critical to setting up a successful business, each of those little things. If the personal touch is just to give you the warm fuzzies, but it actually makes things less convenient for your customer and takes unnecessary manual time from you, it's stupid. Stop.
Right.
You can tell I'm this really like warm fuzzy.
No, I love that. It's so true. Whereas like I've worked with other service providers where I just text. I don't even have to call their front desk because sometimes I'm in another meeting, but I can send a quick text, but I can't, call, right? And or I'm eating lunch and I just want to like get it done and not have to talk to someone. Sometimes I like talking to people, but sometimes I don't, right? But I have the opportunity to just text and my appointment's handled.
Yeah. And these are the things that, like, if anybody's listening, your customers are here bitching about it. We don't like it. But these are also the things that burn the business owners out. They're like, oh, I've got this appointment and then I've got 5 voicemails to respond to. Stop it.
Yep.
Automate those things that you can. Your customers will love the convenience. They really, really do. They don't want to talk to you.
Well, for something silly, I don't. Like if I have questions about my service, of course I want to talk to them, right? But most of the time when it's a repeat service, you're right. They don't want to talk to you at all.
Just like, I say this to my kids all the time. We've got to let easy things be easy. Like we can't make easy things hard. Easy things have to be easy. So then we can put effort towards the hard things.
Yeah, that's so good. Oh man. It seems so simple.
I've said that so many times this year. I've been like, stop it. Stop. Let the easy things be easy.
I'm like literally just pausing because and processing that because a lot of people make easy things complicated, especially with overthinking them. Mm-hmm. And like literally I did it yesterday. I'm human, right? Like I was on a call with someone on my team and I was like, okay, so I'm really I'm trying to understand how are we pitching this differently than that? This is a $25 offer. This is a $5,000 offer. Like, tell me why someone would want to buy this versus that. And he's like, stop. You're complicating this. Like, just take a deep breath. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay. And he's like, here's what they get here. Here's what they get here. And I'm like, oh, but in my mind, I was overthinking it and complicating it because I was like, is it enough? Is it this? Is it that? How can we charge that if they're getting it for a year? And I was like, I made it so complicated. Mm-hmm. And in reality, in 5 minutes, I realized, no, this is a no-brainer.
You follow your own advice. And I always say we need an us for us.
Yes.
Like just because I can tell somebody else all of these things doesn't mean I haven't snuck my iPad into my bed this week.
Oh, right. I mean, here's the deal. Every coach needs a coach.
Yeah.
And so I can be great coaches to others, but I still have coaches that I'm relying on that are helping me.
I need a me for me.
Right.
So you hinted, and I heard you announce recently, just now you hinted at new things. So what new things do you have coming?
Yeah, this is so exciting. So I'm releasing a course for coaches and service providers who want to book out their calendar and just get, sales, right? And
Awesome.
so it's a sales course, and it's going to have a little option, it's going to have an option to have a lower end membership where, and by lower end, I mean, it's going to be only probably $25 a month to begin with for founding members, right? So that's,
Nice.
pretty good. And I'll pop in there once a month for coaching and content. And then there will be an offer for group coaching, and it's really
Really deep
focused on,
dive. Yeah.
yes, and it's an 8-week sales program, and that's around hitting 6 and multi 6 figures. And so, once I realized, and so funny, like sometimes we forget our own advice, like you're saying, because I always start with the transformation in mind. I always start whenever I'm coaching anybody. If you want to sell this, what is the outcome your customer is going to get after they buy? Always start with that. And I didn't start with that with my own. I'm like, I don't understand.
That's where you're complex.
Yeah. So like the
transformation comes in which way? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, one is like, here, book out your calendar, do it yourself. Here's the lessons, here's the material. And the other one is like, this is, high touch from me, weekly content. Let's get you to 6 figures at least, and maybe multi 6 figures.
But well, I would say any coaches that get that tummy feeling when you think about selling, definitely check out Jen's program. We'll make sure and have links to find her everywhere and get access in the show notes. Jen, this has been so fun. I feel like we're going to at least have a part 2. Thanks so much for being with us.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.